Good morning. I just want to take a second and tell you that I am all very glad to see you here. So, before we celebrate everybody who earned their independent reading goal, I want to admit that I have made a mistake. Now, this is a mistake that I've actually been making almost on a daily basis, and I started making this mistake a few years ago. I realized that I have not used the right words to explain the kind of reading that we are doing, the kind of reading that when you're working with me that we focus on. What do I mean by that? Well, I've always historically kind of told you that, hey, we're talking about your AR reading goal. And I've kind of framed it that way. When now that I look at it, I really should have framed it by saying, we're working on your independent reading goal. Now, what do I mean by independent reading? Well, independent reading is the kind of reading that we expect you to do outside of class. All right? It is obligatory, obviously, because it's for a grade, but it is independent, meaning it takes place outside of class. And independent reading is very different than classroom reading because you are the one who's in charge. You are the one who gets to choose what you read. You get to choose the length of it. You get to choose the kind of story that you have, or even if it's nonfiction, like independent reading is my favorite kind because I'm a very independent person. And independent reading is the reading that you get to choose for yourself. So, I think that my mistake was I should have always said your independent reading book rather than your AR book. And I'm going to start saying this. I'm going to start saying independent reading goal. Because, quite honestly, AR is just the tracking tool that I use. That's where I made my mistake. I equated independent reading with the tool used to measure it. So, why do I measure it? Well, you measure what you value. The reading that you do outside of class is so important. It is so important that I want to make sure that you feel successful. Reading well is one of the most important skills that we can give you while you're in school. Now, my job primarily is to guide you to success in your independent reading. That's why I get out of bed every morning. That's why I do everything that I do. It's not about the money, okay? It's to guide you to success in your independent reading. So, AR is just the tool that I use to measure the amount of independent reading that you're doing, the level at which you are reading, and then the accuracy of your independent reading. If I can't measure how well you're doing with your independent reading, then how can I possibly help you be more successful? And what is my job? My job is to help you be more successful. Now, there are other tools that are available to measure independent reading. You guys have done these before. Things like book reports, graphic organizers, projects, all right? They're just different tools. I like AR because it gives you instant feedback. You take that test and it tells you immediately, 10 minutes later, I did really well, I did, okay, or next time I need to slow down. So now, in 8th grade, I often hear people say, but there's no AR in high school, Mrs. Hilling. That is true. However, when people say there's no independent reading in high school, that's false. When you get to high school, you will have language arts classes where they absolutely require independent reading. Not all of them, but out of 4 years, I guarantee 1 or 2 of them will require independent reading. That is reading outside of class. Now, in high school, obviously, since there is no AR, they're going to use a different tool to measure if you completed or your required independent reading. They'll be using things like book reports, graphic organizers, verbal conferences. That's when you sit down one-on-one with the teacher and they really go through a series of questions and they really gauge if you read the book, obviously, number 1, and then how well you did with your reading. And there's plenty of others. My daughter's told me about lots of different ways that her teachers in high school have measured her outside reading. So, again, in all of life, you will be independently reading. Here at Marshall, AR is one of our measuring tools. And for me, as your library teacher, it's the primary measuring tool that I use so that I can help engage your success. Now, we're going to go on to our celebration. how well everybody did with their AR goals, and I want to let you know that moving forward, your goal will stay the same. You're going to have the same AR goal for the fourth 9 weeks as you did the third 9 weeks, and the reason is you will have a few less days in which to finish it, because let's all be honest, the last couple of days of school, we've got graduation, we have celebrations, we have all of that kind of thing. So your AR goal will stay the same, all right? It is actually me having higher expectations because what I'm doing is you're going to have a few less days in which to earn it. All right, so let's all look at how well everybody did. And then when we're done with our celebration, I'm going to be asking you to vote. I want to know if you would like to vote to speed date some books, or if you would like to choose to independently read. So we'll take that vote after we're done with our little celebration, but again, I'll be asking you, would you like to do some rounds of speed dating, or would you like to go ahead and start your independent reading?